Some names are etched in the annals of criminal history, sending chills down our spines. Names that remind us of the darkest depths of human cruelty. Marc Dutroux, the Belgian electrician turned child predator, is one such name. His horrific crimes shook Belgium and the world. This is the story of Marc Dutroux, a man whose name has become synonymous with evil. Marc Dutroux's journey into darkness began early on. Born in 1956, Dutroux's childhood was marked by instability and neglect. The son of Belgian immigrants living in the Belgian Congo, Dutroux was starved of love and guidance from his parents. Before reaching his 20s, Dutroux had already begun engaging in petty crime. Theft, fraud, and violence became commonplace for him. His crimes escalated in the 1980s, culminating in the kidnapping and rape of 5 young girls. Dutroux was released from prison in 1992 after serving only 3 years of his sentence, free to walk the streets once more. In June 1995, Belgium watched in horror as 8-year-old Melissa Rousseau and Julie Lejeune vanished from a playground in Liège. Their disappearance sent shockwaves through the nation, prompting a frantic investigation. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and still, there was no sign of the 2 girls. Unbeknownst to the public, Melissa and Julie were trapped in a nightmare. Emboldened by the leniency of his previous sentence, Dutroux had returned to his predatory ways. He was holding the girls captive in a makeshift dungeon beneath his house, subjecting them to unimaginable horrors. Meanwhile, the investigation into the girls' disappearance became mired in incompetence and missed opportunities. As the search for Julie and Melissa continued, fate dealt another cruel blow. In August 1995, 17-year-old Anne Marchal and 19-year-old Afia Lambrechts disappeared while on a camping trip. Coming so soon after the disappearance of Julie and Melissa, this latest tragedy plunged Belgium deeper into a state of fear and uncertainty. The disappearance of Anne and Ifji bore a chilling resemblance to the Julie and Melissa case. The modus operandi was strikingly similar, pointing to the work of a serial predator. Yet, despite the mounting evidence, the police seemed no closer to catching the perpetrator. Meanwhile, a horrifying drama was unfolding in the darkness of Dutroux's makeshift dungeon. It was a place of unimaginable suffering, where hope dwindled with each passing day. Julie and Melissa, their young bodies ravaged by abuse and malnourishment, clung to life. Driven by a perverse desire for control, Dutroux had convinced himself that he was creating a family. He forced the girls to call him daddy, and subjected them to a twisted regimen of abuse and neglect. In December 1995, Dutroux panicked when police began closing in on one of his accomplices. Fearing that Julie and Melissa would betray him, he heavily sedated them with the intention of burying them alive in a nearby forest. Miraculously, they survived the ordeal, but their nightmare was far from over. Back in the dungeon, Dutroux's reign of terror continued. In August 1996, as Belgium reeled from the disappearance of Anne and Ifja, a glimmer of hope emerged. Dutroux, emboldened by his success, made a fatal mistake. He kidnapped 2 more girls, 12-year-old Sabine Dardenne and 14-year-old Laetitia Deleuze. But this time, fate intervened. A witness, hearing Laetitia's cries for help, reported Dutroux's van to the police. Armed with this vital information, the police finally caught a break. They tracked the van to Dutroux's house and made a chilling discovery. Inside, they found Laetitia and Sabine, weak but alive. The discovery of Sabine and Laetitia alive in Dutroux's home should have been a moment of triumph for the Belgian police. Instead, it exposed a series of blunders and missed opportunities. The police had searched Dutroux's house on multiple occasions, but had failed to find the hidden dungeon. They had received numerous tips about Dutroux's suspicious activities, but had failed to adequately follow up on them. The public's reaction was swift and furious. The Dutroux affair became a symbol of everything that was wrong with the Belgian justice system. The trial of Marc Dutroux and his accomplices began in 2004, nearly a decade after his initial arrest. It was one of the most highly publicized and emotionally charged trials in Belgian history. The nation watched in horror as the full extent of Dutroux's crimes was revealed. The testimonies of surviving victims Sabine Dardenne and Laetitia Deleuze were particularly harrowing. Throughout the trial, Dutroux remained defiant and unrepentant. He was eventually found guilty on all charges and sentenced to life in prison. His accomplices, including his ex-wife Michelle Martin, received lighter sentences, much to the outrage of the victims' families and the public. The Dutroux affair left an indelible scar on the Belgian psyche. It shattered the nation's sense of security and exposed a dark underbelly of depravity. It also led to a profound crisis of confidence in the Belgian justice system. The police and judiciary, once seen as bastions of competence and integrity, were now viewed with suspicion and distrust. Julie and Melissa, whose bodies were found buried on Dutroux's property, became symbols of lost innocence. Anne and Ifji, whose remains were also found on Dutroux's property, met a similarly tragic end. In the wake of the Dutroux affair, Belgium was forced to confront its demons. The public outcry over the case led to a series of sweeping reforms aimed at preventing similar tragedies from happening again. The police force underwent a major overhaul with increased funding and training for officers specializing in child abduction and sexual abuse cases. The justice system was also reformed, with tougher sentences for child sex offenders and the establishment of special courts to handle such cases. The Dutroux affair sparked a nationwide debate on child safety. Schools implemented child safety programs, and parents became more vigilant about their children's whereabouts and activities. More than 2 decades have passed since Marc Dutroux' crimes shook Belgium to its core. The scars of that traumatic period remain, a stark reminder of the fragility of innocence. Yet, even amidst the grief and anger, there is a glimmer of hope. The Dutroux affair forced Belgium to confront its failings and make meaningful changes to protect its children. It also shattered the taboo surrounding this sensitive subject, sparking a national conversation about child sexual abuse. As we remember Marc Dutroux's victims, let us honor their memory by remaining vigilant, resilient, and unwavering in our commitment to protecting the most vulnerable among us. Marc Dutroux's legacy must be one of vigilance, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to protecting the most vulnerable among us.